Tarry here, where the stories never grow old, and you hear something new every time they are told, and it comes clear. So tarry here, where it doesn't matter your age, and when we gather round the table, we all take the stage year after year. So tarry here.
Welcome to the Enlighten Radio Storytelling Hour at enlightenradio.org. I'm Fanny Crawford.
And I'm Stasha Yokelski.
And today is Monday, December 16th. And our theme today is Best Holiday Gift Ever. Hi, Stash.
Good morning.
Looking forward to our stories today. How was your week?
Pretty good. Just same old stuff, you know.
How's your brother doing?
My brother, well, he's dying, and he's getting worse every day. These last 4 times I've visited him, we probably talked for a total of 10 minutes in those 4 visits. And the rest of the time, I spend at least an hour and a half with him whenever I go, sometimes more. And he's been sleeping through most of that.
Whoa, that's hard to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make for a fun day. The days I go see my brother, I spend a lot of time thinking about difficult things.
Yeah, I'm sure that changes your day. Makes it a different kind of day.
It does make it a difficult day. If I didn't have Terry going every other day, I don't know how I would continue to do it. I know I would go. I'd still go every day if she wasn't doing it. But I'm sure that would not help my own mental health so much. It's difficult. I don't know how people work in the hospitals like that. I really don't know how the young people do that. The nurses are so good in that place. I thank them every time I'm in there. When I'm leaving, I see in the halls, I say thanks for all you're doing for the patients, because you do a great job here. Because they really do. They're smiling, they're happy, or at least they're pretending to be, and they don't ever fuss at the patients. The ones that take care of my brother are like angels, and there's not just 1 or 2 of them. There are, many of them. I've gotten to know some of them personally, and I do not know how people can do that. I really don't know how they can do that. I don't know how anybody can do that continually, because the sick people are not all pleasant.
Right.
My brother happens to be an exception. I think they all love him because he's so friendly and polite and thanks them all the time. But he's had 6 different roommates that I know of, and maybe even more. I lost count. And at least 3 of those were SOBs as far as I was concerned. They would be yelling at the people who come in to see them.
Mm-hmm.
They would be saying terrible things about their family and stuff to their family, and they would be arguing with the doctors. I know twice I know of a nurse, one nurse male and one female, who have said in my brother's room not to him, to the person in the next bed, stop it. You may not talk to me that way. I'm a nurse. You may not call me names. You may not use bad language with me. I'll come back in a few minutes when you've settled down, and walk out the room.
Wow.
And come back, and that. And that's only twice I've heard that. Some of them I've seen walk out of the room, and I know that they were shaken. They were upset because the person was being mean. And I don't give a damn if you're dying of cancer or if you had a heart attack or anything. You have no business being mean to someone who's in there to care for you.
Yeah.
And I don't know how anybody could put up with that.
Do you think maybe that's not their past self? That
No,
personalities have changed?
people who are mean, and unless they're mean because they're mentally ill, people who are mean are mean. A lot of human beings are just mean, rotten people. And they say rotten things to people on the street, in stores. I mean, you go to any store and stay for an hour near the counter, just sit there for an hour in a wheelchair as if you're dead or something, and listen to the way people talk to somebody at the cash register. You'll hear terrible things all the time. People are, there are a lot of human beings are not very nice. I mean, it's all over the place. It's not my opinion. That's just a fact. You look at the paper, see it. There's all kind of terrible things go on, but people are nasty. A lot of them, not all of them, and maybe only a few of them.
Well, I'm glad we don't have to deal with anybody right now. I think,
Yeah.
Do you have do you want to talk about Speak, or do you want to go right into a story?
Well, the only thing I'll say about Speak is that people should look at speakstoryseries.com and look on their website and get information about the coming season, because I don't have any kind of information on paper as I usually get from Adam, but so I just say speakstoryseries.com, and you can get information about everything that's coming up. It starts again in February on the second Tuesday of the month, and it's in Shepherdstown, but speakstoryseries.com is where you can get the information for that.
Okay, good. And I wanted to thank Andy Afford-Irwin, for opening our show today with Tarry Here, his song that we love to hear at the start of every show. Okay, well, on our theme of best holiday gift ever, do you want to start?
I think ladies should go first.
Oh, okay. Well, my story it's the entirety of a very small, very old book by Rockwell Kent, who was an American artist and a writer. And he and his 8-year-old son spent the winter of 1918-1919 on a remote Alaskan island. So this story is an abbreviated excerpt from his book, Wilderness, that he wrote and illustrated about that winter. So this is just a small part of that larger story, but it was released as a gift book, as a small holiday book. And it does focus on the Christmas holiday. So this is Rockwell Kent, A Northern Christmas. The south coast of the mainland of Alaska is a wilderness of spruce-clad mountains whose outlying, isolated peaks are islands. On one of those, we lived, a father and his 8-year-old son. We lived there in the winter of 1918 into 1919, me in pursuit of my profession, the boy in pursuit of happiness, which is what every creature wants. We had come a long way. If home is what you desire, then we'd come home. There in the forest of Fox Island, we lived. Our house, a one-room cabin crudely built of logs, and caulked with moss. Our dooryard toward the view, the space we'd cleared, felling trees for fuel, a view of Crescent Cove, the bay, the mountains of the distant shore, the sky, the moon and stars at night, and for companionship, ourselves, each other, and a genial, wise, and kind old man of early gold rush days, trapper and lifelong pioneer. He was a Swede named Olsen. We three, a pair of foxes shut in a corral, a milk goat christened Nanny, an obstreperous Angora goat called Billy, and some foolishly adoring women of his own kind, other goat does, and otters that now and then sat basking on the rocks, as well as blue jays and gulls and porcupines. It was enough. Of the fullness of the days of work and thought, of play, of uneventful peace, we kept a record. The record is a book named Wilderness, and from the book, these notes about a happy Christmas in the North are drawn. Thursday, December 19th. This day is never to be forgotten. So beautiful, so calm, so still, with the earth and every branch and tree muffled in deep, feathery, new-fallen snow. And all day, the softest clouds have drifted lazily over the heaven, shrouding the land here and there in veils of falling snow, where elsewhere, or through the snow itself, the sun shone. Golden shadows, dazzling peaks, fairy tracery of branches against blue sea. It was a day to live and work could be forgotten. So the boy and I explored the woods, at first reverently treading one path so that the snow about us might still lie undisturbed. But soon the boy broke out and rolled in the deepest thickets. He shook the snow on the trees down upon himself, then lay down completely still in the snow for me to cover him completely, and then washed his face till it was crimson and ended with a naked snow bath. I photographed him standing there in deep snow at the water's edge with the mountains far off behind him. He dried himself at the roaring fire we'd already made and said he felt like a new boy. Meanwhile, I searched the woods for a Christmas tree and cut a fair-sized one at last. Christmas is right upon us now. Friday, December 20th. The beautiful snow is fast disappearing under the falling rain. With only 5 more days before Christmas, it is probable we'll have little, if any, snow on the ground then. A snowless Christmas in Alaska. This day was as uneventful as could be. Part of the morning was consumed in putting a new handle into a sledgehammer. It was too dark to paint long, hardly an hour of daylight. These days slip by so easily and with so little accomplished. Only by burning midnight oil can much be done. Sunday, December 22nd. Both yesterday and today it has poured rain. They've not been unpleasant days, however. Occasional let-ups have allowed us to cut wood and get water without inconvenience. Both days I've been occupied with humble housewifely duties, baking, washing, mending, and now the cabin is adorned with our drying clothes. Here, where water must be carried so far, it is the wet days that are wash days. Darning is a wretched nuisance. We should have socks enough to tide us over our stay here. Last night, after the boy had been put to bed, I sat down and did 2 of the best drawings I've made. At 12:30, I finished them. And then to calm my elation a bit for sleep, I read the Odyssey. 10 days from now, it comes due for Olsen to go to town, to Seward. If only then we have mild, calm weather, but as yet we've seen no steamer go to Seward since early in the month. It looks as if the steamship companies had combined to deprive Alaska of its Christmas mail and Christmas freight in a policy of making the deadline with the government over the mail contracts intolerable. Meanwhile, instead of serving us the jaunty little naval cruisers that summered here in idleness, doubtless loaf away the winter months in comfortable southern ports. Monday, December 23rd. Up to this morning, the hard, warm rain continued, and now the stars are all out, and it might be thought a night in spring. At 8:30, I walked over in sneakers and underwear for a moment's call on Olson, but he'd gone to bed. And now, although we'll have no snow, the weather is fair for Christmas. If Olson believes, as he says, that Christmas will pass as any other day, he is quite wrong. The tree waits to be set up, and it will be a thing of beauty, blazing with its many candles in this somber log interior. I've given up the idea of dressing Olson as Santa Claus in goat's wool whiskers. Santa Claus without presents would move us to tears. There are a few little gifts, a pocket knife and kitchen set of knife, fork, and can opener for Olson, an old broken fountain pen for the boy, some sticks of candy, and the dinner. What shall it be? We'll see. It's midnight. I've just finished a good drawing. The lamp is about at its custom low mark. Yesterday it had to be filled twice. Those nights when without a clock I sat up so late and to so uncertain an hour, I've discovered by the lamp and clock together to have been really long. My bedtime then was after 2 or 3 in the morning, but I arose later. Today I finished a little picture for Olson, and so did the boy. These were forgotten in my list of presents as I've just written it. I've shown in my picture the king of the island himself, striding out to feed the goats while Billy, rearing on his hind legs, tries to steal the food on the way. The picture made by the boy is of Olson surrounded by all the goats in a more peaceful mood. Olson's cabin is in the background. I wish we had more to give the good old man. At any rate, he dines with us. Christmas Eve. We've cleaned the house, stowed everything away upon shelves and hooks and in corners, moved even my easel aside. Excuse me. Decorated the roof timbers with dense hemlock boughs, stowed quantities of wood behind the stove, for there must be no work on the holiday. And now both the boy and I are in a state of suppressed excitement over tomorrow. What a strange thing. Nothing is coming to us, no change in any aspect in the routine of our lives, but what we make ourselves. And yet the day looms so large and magnificent before us. I suppose the greatest festivals of our lives are those at which we dance ourselves. You need nothing from outside, not even an illusion. Certainly children need to be given scarcely an idea to develop out of it an atmosphere of mystery and expectation as real and thrilling to themselves as if it rested upon true belief. Well, the tree is ready, cut to length with a cross piece at the foot to stand upon, and a cardboard and tin foil star to hang at its top. And now as to Christmas weather. This morning, as might have been expected, was again overcast. Toward evening, light snow began to fall. It soon turned to rain, and the rain now has settled down to a gentle, even all night and day pace. Let it snow or rain and grow dark at midday, the better shall be our good Christmas cheer. This is the true Christmas land. The day should be dark, the house further overshadowed by the woods, tall and black. And there in the midst of that somber, dreadful gloom, the Christmas tree should blaze in glory unrivaled. by moon or sun or star. Christmas Day on Fox Island. It's mild. The ground is almost bare, and a warm rain falls. First, the Christmas tree, all dripping wet, is brought into the house and set upon its feet. It is 9.5 feet high and just touches the peak of the cabin. There it stands and dries its needles while we prepare the feast. Both stoves are burning, and the open door lets in the cool air. Everything goes beautifully. The wood burns as it should. The oven heats, the kettle boils, the beans stew, the bread browns in the oven, and the pudding sauce foams as rich and delicious as though instead of the first, it was the 100th time I'd made it. And now everything is ready. The clock stands at 2:45. Night has fallen and lamplight is in the cabin. Run, boy, outside to play a while, I say, and then quickly stow the presents about the tree, hang sticks of candy from it, and light the candles. The boy runs for Mr. Olson, and just as they approach the cabin, the door opens and fairyland is revealed to them. It is wonderful. The interior is illuminated as never before, as perhaps no cabin interior ever was among these wild mountains. Then all amazed and wondering, those two come in as children. Who knows which is the more entranced? Ben Olson and I drink in deep solemnity a silent toast, and the old man says, I'd give everything, yes, everything I have in the world to have your wife here now. And the presents are handed out. For Olson, a drawing from the boy. He thinks it's wonderful. And then for the boy, a surprise from town, from Seward, a book. Next for Olson, a painting, a kitchen set, and a pocket knife. By this time, the old man is quite overcome. It's the first Christmas he's ever had. And the boy, when he is handed 2 old copies of Geographic magazine, cries in amazement, why, I thought I was to have no presents. But in addition, he gets a pocket knife and the broken fountain pen and sits on the bed looking at the things as though they were the most wonderful of gifts. Dinner is now on the table. Olson adjusts his glasses and reads the formal menu that lies at his place. Olives, pickles, spaghetti a la Fox Island, beans a la Resurrection Bay, Murphy's en casserole, that is, Irish potatoes baked with a little sauce of rich goat milk and flour, cranberry sauce, plum pudding magnifique, sauce à la Alaska Rome, demi-tasse de café, nuts, raisins, bonbons, and home sweet home cider. We feast and have a jolly good time. It is a true party and looks and smells like one. The boy and I are in clean white shirts, and Olson is magnificent in a new flannel shirt and his Sunday trousers and waistcoat. He wears a silk tie with a gold nugget pin. He is shaven and clipped about the ears. How grand he looks. The food is good and plentiful. The night is long. Only the Christmas candles are short-lived, and we extinguish them to save for another time. Finally, as the night deepens, Olson leaves us amid mutual expressions of delight in one another's friendship, and the boy and I tumble into our beds. So ended Christmas on Fox Island. As life had been, so after Christmas it went on. With spring too soon, the time for our enforced departure came. We left Fox Island. Tearfully, on the threshold of the world, I finished writing Wilderness. And now it's over. Fox Island will soon become in our memories like a dream or vision, a remote experience too wonderful for the full liberty we knew there, and the deep peace to be remembered or believed in a real experience in life. It was for us life as it should be, serene and wholesome, love but no hate, faith without disillusionment, the absolute for the toiling hands of man and for his soaring spirit.
Wow. Nice.
I do love that story.
Hmm.
And it was a gift book that I discovered. I was a teenager, I think, in the throes of my near adulthood, pretty sure that I was very grown up. And finding that book reminded me of camping every summer with my family and what it was like to be out in the woods with family and let go of everything that might be bothering any one of us back at home. So that was a gift, a Christmas gift, just by happenstance for me.
Well, it was very interesting. I was trying to put in a number in my phone and it didn't work. So
What kind of a number?
I was trying to check on the title of a book.
Oh, okay.
But I think I know what the name of the book is, but I wasn't, I forget things. So sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right.
I lost my keys twice yesterday and several other things.
Yeah.
Lost the story this morning.
You lost what?
This story. I had to go figure out where I had put it.
Okay. All right. Well, good. So we're talking about special Christmas gifts. Well, you reminded me that I had planned other things to talk about, but the thing you reminded me of, this was a special book, and it mentioned stuff about Christmas, and at the end, that one of the nicest Christmas presents I ever got was a book called 2001. A Space Odyssey. I see it. It's 2001. I think it was called A Space Odyssey, but I'm not positive that if that's the exact title.
I think it is. Well, that's the title of a book.
Right. And I think that's the right one. But anyway, that was a present I got one Christmas Eve. When for many years, on Christmas Eve, we would go to at the time, my mother-in-law's home. And this is many years ago. And we would exchange gifts, Now that didn't involve me and it didn't involve presents that me and my wife would swap on Christmas Day with our children. But this was members of her family would get together, and my in-laws. Anyway, I was given a brand new book, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I read it, and I stayed up that night. When we got home, I stayed up until 4:00 in the morning.
Wow.
To read that book. I read the entire book in one sitting. And it was one of the best novels I ever read. And it's since then there have been two other novels follow that, and there have been movies, and the movie is one of my favorite science fiction movies also. But anyway, that was a very special gift as far as I was concerned. And most of the time when I read a book, after the first 6 or 8 pages, I know whether I'm going to want to finish it. And in fact, a couple of times in the past year, I've started a book, and Terry's been surprised, and and she's done this also, but I've started, and in no time at all, I've closed the book and put it up over by the front door, because that's where the books go because she returns them to the library or either to the little libraries that we have around town here, where you can just pick up books for free. And but usually if I start reading a book, and I'm hooked on it, I won't put it down for 50 or 60 pages. Even if I've got something to do, I wind up being hooked on it for a while. And then I have to put it aside because I'm supposed to go to, eat or do something. And so that was a really special Christmas gift. And I had a couple of others that I thought of. When I was a kid, my good friend at the time, who lived around the corner from me, one Christmas, we didn't exchange Christmas presents very often. I think it was unusual that he and I would exchange Christmas presents, but one year he showed up on Christmas Eve and knocked on the door and put a box between the front door and the storm door, and I opened the door and saw this. I picked it up and I looked out, and he was going down the street, and he said, "I've got to run another errand. Merry Christmas." And anyway, when I opened it up, and it was Christmas Eve, and it was in the afternoon, I believe. So I didn't get a chance to see him until the next day, and it looked like a space gun. It was like a gun, and it had some matches in it, in the thing, and the matches were they were thick, and they were on stiff cardboard. It was like a match, but it really wasn't a regular match. There were a cardboard like stick with stuff on it, like the what would you call it? Stuff on the match. I don't know what that's called. Do you know what that stuff is called on it? Like the sulfur thing. I know it's more than sulfur. There ought to be there's probably a name for it. But the stuff that makes the flame. Anyway, it had little directions in this. This thing was so cool. It looked like a gun that you would see in a space program. It had funny shape, around, smooth, and it had an opening in the front of it. All right. So I got the booklet out, had a little booklet, and figured it out. And it had one right near the trigger. It had a handle and a trigger guard, But right below the trigger guard was a little thing you pulled down. And inside of it was a place where you would stick the match-like device. And inside the gun, it said in the directions that if you push that device closed, the match would strike, but it wouldn't flame. What it would do is it would cause it to produce like a smoke. And when you pulled the trigger on this thing, inside the gun, this is all explained in the booklet, there was some kind of device like a hammer that would hit a rubber diaphragm. I think that's what the name was, you know, and it would make puffs of smoke come out of the gun. And, it, you know, well, I couldn't wait. I went up to my bedroom, you know, I think I was maybe 13, 14 years old. I couldn't wait to try it. Unfortunately, the smoke that came out would make you like choke. You know, it was, you know, it would, you know, like that. And I loved that gun, but I couldn't use it in the house, you know. And I did take it to his house the next day, and we went into his basement, and so he bought this someplace in a store. He had no idea what it was, and I showed him and shot him in the face with this, you know, with the smoke to show him. I made him sick. He was choking. I thought he was going to throw up and everything, but gagging. And his mother wondered what we were doing in the basement, and told us whatever we were doing down there to stop it, you know, because we were laughing and everything carrying on. And anyway, I never used it again. I put the matches, those things away, and thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, well, I don't know what to do with it. You know, I couldn't really do anything with it around the house, anything, and I put it away. And I wound up forgetting all about it. And when I came home from the Army years later, and I remembered about it, I had put it back in the closet or something, and went looking for it. It was gone, and it turned out that among some other things that my sister-in-law had moved in. When I came home from the Army, when my mom passed away, my sister-in-law moved in with us. My brother and his wife moved in with us to take care of my dad, and I was going off to college. Well, when I went looking for stuff, I found out, you know, one of my childhood toys, which was a Charlie McCarthy doll, you know, for ventriloquist, was gone. My box of baseball cards, which was a real treasure, you know, was gone. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, who is passed away a long time ago. But anyway, she got rid of all the stuff that she thought were nonsense. She cleaned out that closet and got rid of just incredible stuff that for me were real treasures, you know. And I never forgave her for it. I was angry with her about it, but you know, I didn't really fuss at her. I just told her I thought that was very unkind of her to do that without asking anybody. And you know, but that was one of them that disappeared, was the gun. And I really wish I had it now, because I would like to be able to show people something that was a terrible toy. I don't remember anybody else having one of those, and I don't remember ever hearing anything about them. But I know my friend Bobby and I laughed about it a number of times, and we were lucky his mother didn't come down the cellar and find it, because she would have thrown it in the trash or something, and probably trashed us too. But that was a great Christmas present, even though I didn't wind up using it very, except for that one day.
Quite an experience.
Yeah.
Did Tony's wife, your sister-in-law, did she clean out that room because they were using it?
No, it was my bedroom, and she knew that there was a closet. There was a lot of strange stuff. My dad had said something to her about she'd gone up there, and it was my bedroom, and they weren't using it. They had their own separate room, you know. But she said something. She said, "Boy, there's a lot of strange stuff in there." And one thing that was in there was funny. I remember there were some bottles of like maybe liqueur or wine or something that had been there ever since I was a little kid. And I asked about it a number of times because I was curious about it. You know, they were always there in the bottom of that closet, and it was a closet with a tall closet, so some of my clothes were hanging in there, you know, and winter coats and stuff like that. And anyway, my father said something to affect her, you know, that closet should probably be cleaned out. There's stuff in there that no one has seen for years. And she said something to him about this bottles, and he said, you know, I remember Stash saying something about him when he was real little, and and I told him, just don't worry about him. There's something, you know, somebody. I've had those for a long time, and we don't. Your mother and I don't drink that kind of stuff. I kept thinking, he was always thinking if he needed to give somebody a present, you know, like at work or something, he might grab one of those things, and he never did. Anyway, so she cleaned out the closet, and that's where a lot of my stuff was. And you know, and she explained to me that he had said, "Would you clean out that closet?" and you know, and I never said anything to my father about it, of course, you know, because he didn't like that. Cookie, her name was Cookie. Cookie and I clashed at times. She had been my one day girlfriend in eighth grade on our eighth grade trip.
That story.
Yeah, and then she married my brother, and she was my age, and Tony's older.
Right.
So anyway, with you know. But I've gotten over being angry with her. She died when she was only 29 years old, so I think she was 29.
I'm glad you're over that.
Oh well, yeah, but she and I, when I was in college, and she was living there for with my brother for a while. She and I clashed a number of times over things because she got it into her head that not only was she there helping to take care of my father, but she kind of thought she had become my mother.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That must have been really annoying.
Yeah, because she would give me, you know, give me orders, tell me to do things, you know.
She became the lady of the house.
Yeah, which was, you know, once she threw a pot of beans. I don't know, we were sitting down at dinner, my father, my brother, me, and she was serving food. And she said something, and I must have, I don't know if I smiled or smirked, you know, something. She said something else, and she had a real gripe with me because she thought I was she always thought that she should have gone to college, and she didn't. She married my brother, and that was a real issue with her. And she looked at me and she said, "Don't you look at me like that." And I said, "Huh?" She said, "That look you just gave me, don't you dare look at me like that again." And of course, you know, I did this. I did look at her like that with even worse look on my face. And she had a little small pot of, I don't know, like green beans or something in her hand, and she threw it at me. and I ducked and hit the wall. And my father sent us both to our room. Her to her room and me to my room. We were probably 22 years old, 20, something like that.
How did she handle that?
Oh, she was furious. She was glad to get out of the kitchen, you know. So my brother cleaned up the mess. And then my father set us down afterwards, called us down from our rooms. I mean, it sounds funny for a grown man to send two 22 or 23-year-olds to their rooms. But my father was a very gentle man, did not raise his voice much. But he said something to, I've had enough of you too. You don't know how to behave properly. Go to your rooms right now. And we both did. Because I would not disobey my father ever. and she was upset. So, but he set us down that night and explained to us that he couldn't have that in the house. That we had to either get along together or else we're going to have to make arrangements, different living arrangements. And that was fine. I said, I'm going back to college in 2 days. So I was there just for a weekend or something like that. And anyway.
Huh. Quite a story.
Yeah.
Did you, that was not Tony's only wife though, right?
No, that was the love of his life, unfortunately. No, he was married again.
It's kind of a sad story then.
It was a sad story. Yeah. And him, the second time he was married was a disaster too, but it was okay. Produced a fine son. My nephew, Paul, who's named after my dad, looks like my dad. He's a big guy like my dad was. And he's a great son. And Tony wound up moving to Pocomoke City because because his second wife left him for his best friend. She was a tramp. but they invited him to move to Pocomoke City with them, mainly because of Paul, because his son was, he knew his friend Wendell knew how close Tony was with Paul and everything, and so he lived there with them. And Teresa just died about, I think, 5 years ago. And my brother lived in the same house with her for many years. The son didn't stay in that house. As soon as he got out of high school and got a job, he got an apartment or something. And then he's married. He's got kids now. He's got two sons. I think 16 and 15, or 17 and 15, something like that. And but Tony lived with Teresa for many years in just like two crazy people.
So Wendell was gone by then?
Oh, Wendell died 12, 13, 14 years ago. Yeah. And he was a mess too. So.
Wow. Good
anyway,
story.
Yeah. A terrible Christmas story, but.
Was that the story that you had planned to tell, or was there
No? The I was going to tell about the about the book, And also, I think I told I don't know if I told this on the radio or not about my my Uncle Joe coming to the house on Christmas Eve and giving me a Christmas present. Did I tell you? I told
Yeah,
that.
I think you told that on the air, but you could tell a shorter version. You have
Well, when I was 6 years old, Christmas Eve, I had a cold or something, and we were Catholic family, Roman Catholic family. Christmas Eve Mass was absolute, almost like law. Midnight Mass on Christmas Eve, and this I loved going to midnight Mass at it because I went to a very nice church, Holy Rosary Parish in Baltimore, which is one of the most beautiful churches you've ever seen. I always thought when I was a kid, I thought it was like a cathedral. To me, it was a monstrous church. Could seat a couple thousand people, and we had 5 masses on Sunday. We had 4 priests in the parish all the time. Monsignor, we'd been there for. He actually was a Monsignor and the pastor of the church. He had been the pastor there for 50 years. He was a priest there to begin with, and then became the pastor. And anyway, on that Christmas Eve, Mom made me stay home, and my brother Tony stayed home. He's 3 years older than me, because I was sick, and Tony didn't care about going to midnight Mass. So he just I stayed downstairs by the tree. The tree was lit up. My mother said I could leave the Christmas tree lights on if I wanted to stay on the couch, and I had a blanket around me, and I always in pajamas. And so anyway, about 11:30 or so, my folks had gone up to church, and about 10 minutes after they left, I heard a key in the door, and I thought they were coming to check on me or something, or and it was Uncle Joe. And he came in, he had bags, he brought presents. He said, I didn't want to leave these in the car. I'll drop them off. And what are you doing here? I said, well, I don't feel good. Mom made me stay home. He said, oh, that's terrible. And so he said, well, you don't have to wait until tomorrow. He took out of the bag, he took a box and gave it to me. He said, here's your present. Why don't you open it up? It'll make you feel better. So, and I opened it up. The box was wrapped. I tore off the paper, and it was a box, and it had a picture of a rifle on the front of it. It was not a real long box, but maybe 2.5 feet or something. Anyway, I opened it up, and he said, here, I'll show you how it works. He took this and he bent it over his knee, and it was hinged, so it bent in half. And when he did it, it kind of cranked it, and it made a noise. And he put it back, and he reached in the box, and there was a bag of corks, and he put a cork in the front of the barrel, and it was a nice wooden handle and a metal tube for the barrel, and that had a trigger and all. And he looked around, and he looked at the tree and pointed at the tree and shot one of the balls. My mother had a collection of beautiful Christmas balls for the tree that she had been collecting ever since she was a child. And they were all this really nice, that the old Christmas balls used to be made out of glass, like, some kind of, and this thing shattered. Oh, God. And he said, here. He cranked the gun, put a cork in it, handed it to me. He said, you try it. It was Uncle Joe. He said, he's an adult. It's my mom's brother. I shot a ball off the tree. It was easy to hit the balls because there were so many of them, And anyway, we busted we shot all the corks. I think there were 10 corks. We busted 8 or 9 balls easily. I think we only missed once. And my brother came downstairs. He heard us laughing and everything. What's going on here? And Uncle Joe said, oh, see you later. I have to get up to church. I don't want to be late. Off he went. My brother saw that. They didn't even talk to each other. When he came downstairs, Uncle Joe left and said goodbye to him. He was two rooms away coming downstairs. And my brother looked and said, Mom's going to kill you. And I said, well, Uncle Joe. And he said, I don't care. Mom's going to kill you. He went back up to bed. And I, being 6 years old and dumb, I got on the couch and covered up with a blanket. I pulled the blanket over my head, made it all go away until the door opened again in an hour or so, or hour and a half. And I got up, I woke up and looked. My mother came in the room. Her favorite name for me. Diabołek, what did you do? Diabołek means little devil in Polish. I said, and then Dad came in right behind her and Uncle Joe. And I looked at him and I thought, oh, good, Uncle Joe's here. I figured he's going to say something. He didn't say a word. My mother took me by my ear off the couch and marched me to the steps and said, you go to bed. I'll deal with you tomorrow. Smacked me on the backside. Upstairs I went. I was furious with Uncle Joe. I couldn't believe that, he caused all this trouble and he didn't say a word to help me out. It took me until I think I was a teenager before it dawned on me that Uncle Joe, who, by the way, was a Catholic priest, Father Joe, he was more afraid of my mother than I was.
Really?
Really, because my mother was a tyrant, and
Wow.
And I never told her. I never told my mother.
That might be my favorite Stosh story ever.
Oh, and I told that. I've only told once at Speak. And I told when Adam was telling, I think 2 years ago, it was the last event in Speak that year. I think it was season 11. And Adam said, I've been meaning to have you tell it Speak. And it dawned on me, this is the last Speak. This was the day before. He said, would you please tell a story? He was performing that night. He said, would you tell a story before I perform? And for some reason, whenever he was performing, a number of times he asked me to introduce him because he liked the way I didn't waste time, and I would just say something, a short sentence and introduce him. But I told that story and people loved it.
I bet they did.
Yeah. And I told it was a longer version of it, but not much more. But and I added all the spicy parts about Uncle Joe and I laughing.
We are out of time.
Oh, good.
This is Fanny Crawford
and Stosh Ziolkowski,
your co-hosts for the Enlighten Radio Storytelling Hour at enlightenradio.org. We are independent community radio broadcasting from Bolivar, West Virginia, Morgantown, West Virginia, and Hagerstown, Maryland, offering our listeners, that would be you, a window into the world of storytelling by traditional and non-traditional tellers, and encouraging you to share, preserve, and expand all of our stories. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for John Case up next with...
Oh, we're really on maintenance here.